Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, where you happen to be. This is it. We're right here at the end of the course. You will have this update and you will have an update next week, and that's going to be it. The reason is because this was an 8-week class. It was a very fast-paced class, but we are right here at the very penultimate point, in the sense of that word, penultimate point. So let's take a look at what you have left ahead of you. Again, the embedded librarian material is optional. I would encourage you to use it if you want to be able to effectively locate resources. The librarian has done an excellent job of putting this together to help walk you through those resources, to help remind you how to find resources, to help develop your understanding of how to find those resources. I'm going to do some of that in just a second myself for purposes of this particular video. So make sure you use that. Make sure as well that you keep in mind that Module 4 ties directly into Module 5. All the information that you're doing here, both for the template and then the abstract and annotated bibliographies, tie directly into the Capstone project that you will be doing. The template, I talked about that a bit briefly in prior videos. So in this video, I want to talk about the abstract and annotated bibliographies in more detail. That by the way, as well as broken down in the announcement. You'll see it below this video. You'll also see it in last week's announcement as well. The Capstone project, though, again, is an argument of your choice. I talked about argument last time, so go back and look at that video as well. So for purposes of this video, I would like to look at the 4.0 materials. Specifically, I want to call your attention to this page, Abstracts and Annotated Bibliographies on mine. It summarizes what you need to do. You need one abstract. One abstract. That's, again, what's listed in the announcement, but I want to emphasize that. An abstract is going to be a formal, third-person summary of your topic. Abstracts are used, generally speaking, in one of two ways. One, to summarize a paper that's already been written. It saves a lot of readers' time and effort to try to figure out, hey, do I want to actually go and read this full thing? Well, I don't know. Let me read the abstract. It's only 150 words and it summarizes everything in that paper. You need to reveal as much as possible, by the way, when you do this, all the details of what occurs inside that paper. Don't withhold information. People are reading this to see exactly what you're going to say or what you did say. The second way, and the way that we're using it, is sometimes as a kind of proposal. You're going to tell me about a paper that you're going to be constructing. Again, same basic idea. Formal, third person. It has the same formatting and all the rest as a normal abstract would. But you're going to make your best guess as to what that paper is going to be about. Now, because this is an 8-week class, which means it's very short, you're in this unusual position of submitting the abstract and annotated bibliographies at the same time that you're going to be drafting this essay. So you have that advantage working for you in a way. You already know what your paper's about because you're already working on it. So yeah, keep that in mind, but that's what you're submitting. That's what an abstract is. I actually put this meme here. It's a terrible meme, but I put it here because students were just having all this information run together. So that helps to distinguish. An abstract is a distinct thing from annotated bibliographies. You're required to do 3 of these, as it says right here and as it says in the announcements as well. This is basically the same thing as an abstract, except you're doing an abstract for somebody else's paper. In this case, you're going to do your research. You're going to go and pull that research. You're going to cite your research, as you can see right here. I've cited this research, and then underneath it, you're going to summarize that research in about 150 to 200 words. The worst thing you could do in a situation like this is to simply copy the abstract that already exists, because if you do that, and I find it in here, I just have to give your entire thing a 0 because you plagiarized. You are not allowed to do that. Yes, there might already be an abstract, but that doesn't matter. You need to read it yourself and summarize it yourself. So you need, again, 3 of these. 2 of them can be from popular sources, but let me go ahead and say this. Do not use the encyclopedia, not at this level of writing. Don't use the dictionary. That does not count as a source as well. Don't use Course Hero. Don't use Sparks Notes. Don't use Wikipedia. Those are not legitimate academic sources. You are writing at the college level. You do not need the encyclopedia. That is something that you'd use in middle school and perhaps high school, but definitely not in a college level environment. That's not to say you can't go and pull maybe some general information. When was Kate Chopin born? When did Kate Chopin die? I don't know. Let's go look it up. Maybe we can go look it up in the encyclopedia. But for purposes of your research, for your argument, you're not using those do not count as a source. So be careful about that. The other one that you're going to be using, the one that is required, one of the ones that's required is again a peer-reviewed scholarly source. To find those, done this before, but to find those current students, library. Now let's say that we are writing, let's just pick one of these things that I've already searched for before. Why not? Let's say that we're writing a paper on police brutality. We want to talk about this and do some research on it. So we type that in. You can see that we have 522,000 results. We want to click on peer-reviewed, scholarly and peer-reviewed. That helps to narrow it down considerably. Yeah, right there. We want to look for journal articles, and ideally we want to look for something published in the last 5 years. Once we sort in that way, you can see that that significantly cuts down the results, but we still have got to be able to review this. If we click on this content right here, I haven't reproduced this result before I started doing the video, but let's find out. Okay, full text PDF, let's look at that. No pictures. There are no pictures in here. If there were pictures in here, they would tie directly to the subject itself. There are not any advertisements in here. You don't see any, hey, come by, whatever, Gap clothes or something like that over here in the margin. You just see nothing but the article itself. The article also appears in an academic journal dedicated to that subject area, American Journal of Public Health. It has a volume and issue number. It was, again, in recent times, and we could even check out the author here. So we could click on the author, come over here to another tab. You can see that this person has published multiple papers on the subject. We could as well, so that's her name, Krieger, Nancy Krieger right there, is an American epidemiologist. He was professor of social epidemiology. So, by the way, we might have to dig for results. I just got lucky this time, but that means that she is very well qualified to talk about this topic because she is an epidemiologist. So we know that she's an expert. We can see, again, no advertisements. And then even, by the way, furthermore, down at the very bottom, we see a list of references. All of those are characteristic of a peer-reviewed scholarly source. You have got to find at least one of these for your paper, and you must incorporate that and all the other information that you've researched into your essay. Excuse me, I just ate something right before I made this video. So keep in mind, the worst thing that you could do with the final capstone project is to simply write the paper and then try to tack on the research at the end. That does not count. I've seen students do this multiple times before in the past. It's always painfully obvious because the research is just not part of it. A sort of halfway way to try to do that is to write the paper and then just occasionally drop a quote in there. That doesn't work either. Your quotes need to be an essential part of the paper itself. They need to pass what I call the drop test. The drop test is where if it disappears, again, what I've said before in prior videos, if it disappears, then you would notice because suddenly it's not there anymore. So make sure that your quotes can pass the drop test. Make sure that your quotes and research are an essential part of your essay, your final capstone project. But coming back over here, it's going to be part of your annotated bibliography. You're going to submit, again, 3 in total. 2 can be just trustworthy. That third one needs to be a peer-reviewed scholarly source of some sort. Okay, so that should help with what you're doing. I'm going to come back over here and just point out one more thing in this video. It's going to make it fairly short compared to some of the others, but let's do this. If you're wondering how to do the Smart Thinking Tutor, click into 5.1e. I'm not going to reproduce what I've already said elsewhere. That video walks you through step by step how to use the Smart Thinking Tutor service. Now keep in mind what I've said in that video as well. You have 5 total hours of this the entire time that you're at Stanley Community College, not per semester, not per year, in total. So use this sparingly, but when you get into a problem with an essay and you need additional help, that is an excellent resource for you to be able to use. That's why we require it in this class. We want you to use it at least once so you know how it works. Another thing that I always want to make sure that I emphasize is that it takes between 24 and 48 hours for that essay to come back once you submit it, because there's a live person out there that will review it. This is not an employee of the college. Yes, you can pay to speed it up. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. But submit it on Tuesday. That's why I marked it on your calendar and in this announcement, and then you should have it back by Thursday. You don't have to necessarily submit an entire draft, but the more that you can get to them, the better your feedback is going to be. If you only get them a page, then you only got a page of feedback. That's a quarter of what you need to write. If you can get them, 3.5 or 4 pages, well, then there you go. You're that much closer to being done with it. Okay, that summarizes everything you need for purposes of what you're working on right now. Next week, I'll talk more about the capstone and give you some advice there, but I've already been talking about that somewhat with the research portion and the argument, so make sure you're watching the announcement videos. See you next time.